Hello, everyone. I'm Maria, and I'm going live a couple minutes late because I went live in my Facebook group instead of on my personal page. So welcome to my new podcast. It's going to be called Pause, Alchemy of Women, like my Facebook group is called. I'm a little nervous calling it a podcast. I've gone live many times, but not as a podcast. So it's going to be streamed live on my personal page. It'll later be recorded and put in the group. So my group is called Pause, Alchemy of Women, and it's a private Facebook group. And later today, I'll be setting up a YouTube channel. So we'll see how that goes. I'm going to put the link to the YouTube channel in the comments later. So if you could subscribe, that would be amazing. I'll put the link in the comments. So first, I just wanted to start out talking a little bit about me in a different way than maybe you see on my regular page. A lot of you I know, most of you I know personally, but some of you not. That's how Facebook works. So I am Maria. I'm a coach and mentor. I am a biologist, an herbalist, a yoga instructor, and I live in Cusco, Peru. I'm originally from the US, from New Jersey and California. And so I'm super passionate about helping women, specifically about helping women, to quote Oprah, live your best life in the way that I love to teach women how to be easy on themselves, because that's not something that we normally do, and for me, that's how you become your best self. The first step is to start being easy on yourself. So to talk a little bit about why I'm a coach because for years I sort of struggled with wondering, what do I want to do? I've had a lot of people, my family and other people say like, oh, now you're doing this and now you're doing this and now you're a biologist and now you're doing massage and now you're doing yoga. But for me, all of those things have always gone together. And a few years ago, it sort of culminated into this idea of, oh, I could be a coach. I love listening. I love helping people get through their challenges. I have a lot of skills, herbalism, yoga, meditation. I have a lot of skills for calming stress and, getting you back on your right path when you're feeling a little lost. So the idea of coaching came to me, and I went to a school called the International Association of Wellness Professionals, which I don't say very often because it's hard to say, the IAWP, which is not easier, honestly, to say. And so I started helping women who are overwhelmed, right? Hi, Abby. And what does that even mean, right? So overwhelm is a really broad topic, and most of us feel overwhelmed. And I started coaching around the pandemic, so everyone was overwhelmed. And I didn't know what that meant, but I knew I wanted to help women. Like I said, I love to teach women to be easy on themselves. So overwhelmed women that's what they need, right? And then I realized what I'm really interested in is menopause. Why am I interested in menopause? That's a good question. Many years ago, I'm 46 now, but many years ago, when long before I even thought about menopause for myself, I started hearing stories from different women. First, it's kind of like this mysterious topic that we don't know anything about. And it's like the secret, awful thing that's going to happen to us later, right? But lots of years ago, it started getting treated kind of like some obscure disease, which of course it's not. It's just a natural part of what happens to us as women. Everyone will go through it in some form, either surgical or not. And it's important. And I started having conversations with women about either their fears or their struggles, their concerns, women that were having hysterectomies, women that were going through menopause really young. When you get a hysterectomy, usually it's like day to night. Yeah, menopause is over. And even the term menopause, people don't even know what that means, because the menopause is actually the moment where your period stops completely forever. So perimenopause is usually really what we're talking about. Anyway, so I started hearing about this and really feeling like we were an underserved population of women, and it's ridiculous because really literally everyone, if you live that long, will go through this process, right? So I started getting really into that. And I worked with that for a little while. I did several programs, I did some workshops, I did a 4-week intensive. And during the 4-week intensive, I realized, this is actually not always the issue. So of course it's an issue. A lot of women have serious medical not complications, but discomfort, symptoms. It's a problem for a lot of women. But what I realized is more of the problem is actually a greater theme here. So yes, menopause is uncomfortable. Maybe there's hot flashes, maybe there's other symptoms. Like I said, some women do need medical intervention, but often it winds up, being uncomfortable for a few years and kind of been done, right? But the thing that really is going on for a lot of women is this topic of aging, right? Which is a gross word, and I'm still looking for a different word. I posted a couple of weeks ago in my group about, we don't talk about trees aging, we talk about trees growing older, because that's what they're doing. They're just getting a little older, right? And it winds up being, in my opinion, and from what I've seen, the bigger issue of either getting older or menopause. A lot of the symptoms come, we do need another word, Abby. A lot of the symptoms come from this feeling of being old that really is very focused on women. My partner is a bit older than me, and he's like a distinguished older man. Like, he's not some guy on a downward spiral, because he's not having children anymore. Women are kind of told, we kind of get this feeling of feeling obsolete or undesirable, unneeded, like it's all downhill from here. And this is true, I find, whether you've had children or whether you haven't. So our whole lives are centered on these like childbearing years, right? And so, like I said, I'm 46. I haven't had any children and I don't plan to. And so I asked a woman once where she was having a really hard time about this idea that she was not able to reproduce anymore. Now, it's a different topic if you wanted children and you didn't, and now you can't. That's a different topic, which is sensitive, and I can totally sympathize with that idea. We can talk about that another time, but this woman had children and she didn't want any more. But then this idea that you couldn't, was really hard for her. And she was saying basically she felt worthless because she couldn't have children anymore. And I told this story before, but I said to her, well, now I don't have any children. And what if I'm planning to live till at least 100? And does that mean that if I don't have any children, my whole life was worthless? And she said, of course not. And, and she felt kind of upset that she thought she upset me. And she said, no, of course your life isn't worthless. And I said, well, then why would yours be worthless? Because now you can't have any children. And so I find a lot of these ideas they're not necessarily our own ideas. And that's another big piece of my coaching, is kind of seeing what are our ideas and what are ideas that are it's a little confusing because the thoughts are in your head, right? But maybe the thoughts come from the media. Maybe the thoughts come from your family. Maybe the thoughts come from other women. And they're kind of circling around your head, but then separating this idea of what's mine and what's society's or other people's or the media. I had a similar experience about Botox, which is not to knock Botox. So if that's your thing, but for me, it's always been a no. But recently I thought, oh, like people kept talking about it. And I thought, oh God, I'm getting these lines. Like maybe I need Botox. And I almost thought, oh, I should get it. And then I realized that is not me. That's not me saying that. That's like Hollywood or friends of mine, saying, oh, that's bad. Wrinkles are bad, and I don't even actually feel that way. I feel like, especially smile lines for me have always been something that just shows that, that I've laughed a lot, that I've squinted into the sun, that I live in the Andes and it's dry here, that I've cried, I've fought with my partner, I've lost people, so for me, wrinkles are not they show that I'm not 20, but they don't show that something's wrong. And so that's just kind of that idea of what's mine and what someone else's. So that's a big piece of this whole thing, I feel, understanding really how you feel about yourself and how you feel like about yourself in this world. And so moving with that and the getting older, I kept coming up with this phrase, now what? Right? Because that seems to be women, in your 40s and 50s, you start to feel like, well, either I had kids or I didn't. And then I either, I'm in menopause or maybe I'm after. And now what do I do? Right. And so I feel like a lot of that comes with this starting to feel like, we're living a lot longer now. So 45, 50, it's not old, whatever that is. 70s, I have women in my family, they're 70s, going to Egypt and, climbing Machu Picchu and doing all their things in their 70s. And so I just feel like it's about reclaiming this life for ourselves. Women give so much of themselves all the time. I mean, men too, but women traditionally, we're givers. We want to give to our family, our husbands, our work, giving, and then there's nothing left for us. And so Jeff Goldblum is in his 70s. That's so funny. We're giving so much and then there's nothing left often for us. And then, say your kids grow up and everything, you're so used to giving. And I think that's also a piece of menopause when women are irritated stuff. I mean, part of it is hormonal, but also it's like, hey, I gave all of this stuff and that's enough. Now is the time for me. And now is the time for me to take care of myself. Now, I mean, of course you can start this earlier. We just often don't. You can start as early as you want, taking care of yourself. And that would make this whole situation more ideal, right? But I feel like wherever you are, now is the time to reclaim ourselves, our lives, our spirits, and do exactly what we want and need to do. And I feel like that's why menopause for me was kind of like a powerful topic, because women, I think with this like hormonal anger that we get, it kind of is an extra push to say, I want to do what I want to do. And I feel like you can do that without, kicking your poor husband to the curb unless he needs that, quitting your job, doing all these things. I feel like we can reclaim this time for ourselves and do what we really want to do in a way that is really positive. And I always say to be unapologetically and authentically, not inauthentically, unapologetically and authentically ourselves. And so whatever that means, I had some people ask like, well, what is even authentic? But you're the only one that gets to decide that. So my life that I live is not right for everyone, right? Not everyone wants to live in a foreign country and do the crazy, weird things that I do. So anyway, all of this is to say, talking about why I really want to start a podcast and what types of things I like to talk about. And I was inspired because I do have this Facebook group that I hope all of the women join. Sorry, it's not open to men. It's a little more it's a private group, so there can be more discussion about specific things. You don't want everyone in Facebook land to know. But I was inspired to go bigger with this podcast to reach more women and also to be able to open it to men. My partner, I always joke that he is the most informed man about menopause in the whole world. And it's actually really helped our relationship and helped his relationship with people, women that he works with, and, to understand, because you think about it, like if women, we don't even understand menopause or what society, how that's affected us and feeling older and wrinkles, et cetera. If we don't understand that, how can we expect men to be sympathetic and understand what we go through if we don't talk to them about it? And I really wanted to talk more about menopause and more about different topics that affect us as women. And so my podcast will be in this method, like I said, here on the Facebook Live, also into the group. And I'll be having a YouTube channel, which I'm nervous to do, but I'm going to do. So please all subscribe to that. The way I'm going to do it is going to be every Friday at 12 p.m. Eastern, just like right now, of various lengths. And each month it'll be mostly me coming live, but also I'm going to be interviewing different people. So topics that I'm going to be really interested in covering right away is stress relief, especially as we get older and all of that. Of course, I'll talk about herbs and herbalism, natural remedies. Skincare is something I'm really, and I hate anti-aging skincare, even if that is what the product does. I don't know why we're anti-aging. So we'll talk about that and how to kind of get away from that idea of like, I don't want to be old because it's bad, because in my eyes, if you're old, you didn't die. So that's amazing. The older I get, the more time I've had to live. And so getting out of that idea, but skincare, I love skincare. So we'll talk about body image and body shame and how that affects us as women. We'll talk about menopause, of course, because I love it, and self-care and all of that involves, and whether that involves bubble baths and massages, or whether that involves, taking a couple of deep breaths to recenter yourself, and get our needs met in all ways, either by ourselves or by others, and how to go about that. And I'll also have some interviews with some women about relationships, sex and intimacy, and so much more. So I'm happy to be having, I think I'll probably have 1 to 2 people a month that I'll interview, and the rest will be me telling you something exciting. So I am open to any themes you would love for me to discuss. I'm also super happy to talk to people about if there's something that you want to come on and talk to me about involving women and our, how to really embrace this idea of growing older without having it be negative, and how we're going to embrace that. And just be the best selves that we can. So thank you so much for watching. If